Hey guys, tonight we're boarding a rickety, smoke-belching train clattering through the German countryside. The fields outside blur past like a watercolour gone soggy, and inside the cramped wooden carriage, you're squeezed shoulder to shoulder with a dozen other men, boys, really? Most of them dressed in ill-fitting grey-green uniforms that itch like mad. One guy's humming a patriotic tune, another's holding back tears, and you're gripping your rifle like it might suddenly explain why you're here. The year is 1914, and you're a freshly conscripted German soldier, barely out of school. You might still have ink on your fingers from a goodbye letter you wrote just hours ago. The ink is smudged, your hands are shaking. You're not the only one. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your boots aren't broken in yet, and you already regret wearing the socks your aunt knitted you. It's hot. The windows don't open properly, and the train smells like old beer and nervous sweat. A sergeant barks orders every few minutes, mostly to make sure nobody tries to jump off. You're headed toward the Western Front, though no one really knows what that means yet. They just keep saying it'll be over by Christmas. Spoiler, it won't. You pass the time by listening to a guy named Fritz across from you. He's from Bavaria and swears he's already seen combat. He hasn't. But his stories help kill time and distract you from the fact that the field rations in your bag consist of black bread hard enough to chip teeth and a questionable chunk of pork fat. There's also a tiny tin of mustard, which feels weirdly luxurious. You tuck it away like treasure. Eventually, the train slows. The countryside gets flatter, muddier. Trees grow thin and twisted like they're trying to duck the coming storm. You arrive at a staging area, just a few tents and a pile of crates with Kaiserliche Armee stamped on them in bold, smug letters. You're herded off, lined up, and given a quick orientation. A guy with a monocle explains how to march, how to salute, and how to avoid syphilis. It's weirdly comprehensive. You're then handed a Mauser rifle and told to get to know her. She's heavy, oily, and very cold to the touch, like dating a ghost. That night, you sleep under the stars. No tent, just your coat and a blanket thinner than military logic. You lie on the ground, which feels like it's made of compacted regret and tiny rocks. A bug crawls into your collar. You try not to scream. Fritz is already snoring like a horse. There's a superstition among the older soldiers. Don't polish your boots too much before the first march. Shiny boots mean you'll die early. You take it seriously. You also overhear someone mutter that soldiers who eat all their mustard in one go are doomed. You don't take that one as seriously, but you still ration yours. The next morning, you're assigned to a unit. The Feldwebel, your squad leader, has a moustache that could deflect bullets and a voice like crushed gravel. He doesn't remember your name and probably never will. To him, you are now Nummer 6. Number 6 could be worse. Fritz got Nummer 99. Takes him 10 seconds just to reply. You start drills. Marching. Digging. More marching. There's a rumour someone in another platoon passed out from heat stroke while trying to march more heroically. Whatever that means. One of the biggest shocks is how disorganised everything is. You'd think the German army, the stuff of legends, would be a well-oiled machine. But in reality, your boots don't match your uniform. Your rifle's sights are slightly off, and no one seems to know when lunch is supposed to happen. Historians still argue whether the early weeks of German mobilisation were a strategic masterpiece or a logistical dumpster fire. You start noticing things, like how the officers always get the good boots, how the coffee, if you can call it that, tastes like burnt barley, and how letters from home arrive at the exact moment you start feeling like you don't exist. Speaking of letters, you get one from your mother. She says your younger brother is pretending to be you and marches around the house with a broom. You laugh, quietly. You don't want to be the weird guy who laughs alone at night. Then come the rumours. The French are mobilising, The British have joined. One guy swears he saw a Belgian boy take down a cavalryman with a slingshot. He's probably lying, but you still picture it. There's also a fringe theory among your squad that Belgian beer is secretly poison, and that every bottle consumed is an act of treason against the Reich. No one dares test it. You do miss real beer, though. Eventually the orders come. You're moving closer to the front, this time on foot. You walk for hours, then days. Your boots blister, then bleed. Fritz complains non-stop about his archers. One morning, a horse drops dead in the road, and you're told to march around it like it's nothing. A fly lands on your lip. You don't even flinch anymore. At one point, your unit passes a field hospital. The smell hits before the sight. There's blood, shouting, and someone playing an accordion, weirdly upbeat. You don't look too closely. As night falls, you dig your first foxhole. It's shallow, poorly shaped, and fills with water before midnight. You pretend it's part of the design. Advanced hydration trench. Fritz thinks that's hilarious. You're issued a gas mask. It looks like a leather elephant had a baby with a bug. The sergeant tells you it works. You're not convinced. You practice putting it on in 10 seconds flat. You manage 20. Close enough, right? Later, you catch sight of a blimp floating overhead. It looks peaceful, graceful, like it belongs in another century. Turns out it's scouting for artillery targets. You wave at it sarcastically. Fritz does too. Moments later, it disappears behind a bank of clouds. That night, you fall asleep to the sound of distant guns. Not loud. Just enough to remind you that every step forward takes you closer to the real war, the one with mud, blood, and mustard gas. You dream of clean sheets, a hot bath, a quiet room. You won't see those things again for a long time. You wake before dawn, not because someone shouts, but because of the cold. It seeps through your coat, your socks, your spine. You try to sit up and realize you've slept curled around your rifle like it's a teddy bear made of wood and death. Breakfast is a lukewarm concoction that may once have been oatmeal or sawdust. Hard to tell. A few men complain, but not loudly. You're all starting to understand that complaining gets you nowhere, except maybe on a list. Then the whistle blows. Today's the day. You're heading to the front. The Western Front is not what you imagined. You pictured a dramatic cliff or a massive wall or some kind of military monument. What you get is a long ditch, damp and crooked, stretching across the land like a bad scar. Barbed wire coils along the top like angry spaghetti, and everything smells like wet socks and cheap tobacco. The first thing you notice is the mud. It's not regular mud. It's a living, sucking force that threatens to remove your boots and maybe your will to live. One guy loses a shoe within minutes. Another loses his lunch. You're handed a shovel and told to get digging. Welcome to Trench Warfare TM. There's no glamour here. No glory. Just the endless sound of water dripping, rats squeaking, and distant artillery thudding like an angry god with indigestion. You dig because they tell you to, and because it's the only thing between you and a French bullet. The guy next to you, a quiet kid from Dresden, tells you he once wanted to be a violinist. He still hums Brahms under his breath. His hands are shaking so badly he can barely hold the spade. You don't ask why. Your Feldwebel stalks the trench like a wolf with a clipboard. He growls at you for slouching, for digging too slowly, for sneezing. You try not to hate him. He's just doing his job, and possibly enjoying it a little too much. You're taught the essentials quickly. How to keep your rifle dry, how to stack sandbags properly, and, most importantly, how to relieve yourself in a trench latrine without losing your dignity or your footing. Spoiler, you will lose both. The rats are worse than you thought. Big ones. Bold ones. One runs across your chest while you're sleeping and doesn't even apologize. Some soldiers swear they've seen rats the size of cats dragging biscuits from their packs. You laugh the first time you hear that. Then you see it happen. You learn the rhythm of life out here. Stand to at dawn, just in case the enemy charges while everyone's half awake. Quick meals when you can, naps when it's quiet, but it's never quiet for long. Artillery becomes your constant companion. Sometimes you hear the distant boom of German guns firing. Sometimes it's French ones answering. Sometimes a shell lands close enough that you feel it in your teeth. You don't scream. You freeze, then laugh, then check to see if you've soiled yourself. You wouldn't be the first. Historians still argue whether artillery or disease killed more men in the trenches. From your point of view, both are equally eager applicants. One day, you're assigned sentry duty. Midnight to 4, you perch behind a metal plate with a slit, staring across no man's land. It's not actually empty. There are bodies out there. Some whole, some not. You're told not to look too long. It's cold. So cold your fingers go numb, and you start hallucinating conversations with your boots. Fritz swears he saw a ghost once, a Frenchman with no face, just eyes, staring back at me. You tell him to get more sleep. He says, I haven't slept in 3 days. The food situation isn't great. You get something called Ersatzbrot, or replacement bread. It's made with flour, sawdust, and possibly crushed dreams. You eat it anyway. One guy finds a beetle in his... He keeps it for luck. You begin to notice that everyone smells, not just a little, profoundly. It's a combination of sweat, smoke, and that indefinable trench funk that settles into every fibre of your uniform. You could probably smell a British soldier before you saw him, and they'd say the same about you. There are lice. So many lice. They crawl into your seams, your socks, your scalp. You scratch constantly, like a possessed scarecrow. Some men give their lice names. Others start collecting them. It's either a hobby or a breakdown. Hard to tell the difference out here. Every so often you're given rest, a few days behind the lines in a slightly less horrible trench. They call it rest. You call it not being actively bombed. It's here that you meet a man they call the poet. He writes sonnets in a little notebook made from ration paper. He reads one aloud about a dead horse. It's oddly beautiful. Then he goes back to cleaning his bayonet. During these moments, you learn little tricks, like how to dry your socks by tying them to your rifle barrel overnight, or how to make coffee out of burned bread, or how to look busy whenever the Feldwebel appears. There's also a quiet, shared ritual, letter reading, men cluster in corners, hunched over pages from mothers, sisters, sweethearts. You get a second letter, this one from your brother. He drew a picture of you holding a flag and standing on a tank. You don't have the heart to tell him there are no tanks here yet. You just smile. Quirky fact. Early in the war, German troops carried Pickelhaube, those iconic spiked helmets. You still have one, though the spike's dented and makes you a better target. Later, they'll switch to the Stahlhelm, which looks much meaner and doesn't announce your presence like a novelty hat. You do get used to things. The taste of iron in the water, the sting of cordite in the air, the weird comfort of routine even when the routine involves death. There's a kind of rhythm to survival, and a kind of guilt that comes with it. One morning, a shell lands near the trench. 2 men go down. No screams, just a spray of dirt and a terrifying silence. You're told to keep digging. You do. Later, someone finds a boot. Just a boot. It's during moments like this that you catch yourself thinking, I could die here. And instead of panicking, you just nod. Because the thought has become as ordinary as tying your laces. The Feldwebel finally learns your name. He yells it across the trench and throws you a new shovel. You feel weirdly honoured. As night falls again, the stars come out. You lie back, resting your head on your helmet. You hum something. Maybe that tune Fritz keeps repeating. You're tired. Not just physically, deeply, soul-tired. And yet, you're still here. You've made it one more day. You probably won't survive this. But for now, you did. You wake up mid-snore, gasping, your face half buried in the muddy wall of the trench. Your mouth tastes like iron filings and wet wool. It takes a moment to remember where and who you are. Then the rat skittering over your boot helps jog your memory. Right. Still alive. Still number 6. Trench life isn't really life. It's more of a prolonged, unpleasant waiting game. And you're always waiting for the next order, the next meal, the next shell, the next cold. Time bends strangely here. Hours stretch like taffy, then suddenly it's night again. Or dawn. You start forgetting the day of the week. Some guys forget the month. One man insists it's still October. It's December. Your hands are swollen from cold. You haven't felt your toes properly in 2 days. You suspect they're still there because they haven't fallen off yet. But trench foot is making its rounds, and you're not above checking other people's socks just to see how bad it can get. Spoiler, very bad. Today, you're on latrine duty, which is, surprisingly, one of the more respected jobs in the line. Not because it's pleasant, it's disgusting, but because it gives you a moment to yourself. That is, if you count squatting over a wooden board surrounded by sandbags while swatting flies and praying for privacy as me time, let's talk hygiene, or, more accurately, the absolute lack thereof. Baths are mythical. Washing involves a canteen, a rag, and a desperate hope. You scrub your face with cold water so hard it stings. It still doesn't make a difference. Everyone has that smell now. Earth, gunpowder, old cabbage, feet, and defeat. You meet new soldiers, fresh faces with bright eyes and clean collars. You don't envy them. You just nod politely and try not to crush their spirits too early. One of them offers you a cigarette. You accept. It's the kind gesture of a man who hasn't yet fired his weapon in anger. You both smoke in silence. A rumour floats through the trench. British troops just across the way are planning a Christmas truce, a temporary ceasefire, maybe even football in no man's land. You scoff. We'll be lucky if we get warm soup. But then it happens. On Christmas Eve, a voice rises from the enemy trench. A carol. Then another. Men start lighting small candles on bayonets. Someone tosses a chocolate bar over the wire. You stare, dumbfounded, as the impossible unfolds. Soldiers, enemies, meeting between the lines. Laughing, swapping gifts, some even shake hands. You step forward cautiously. A British soldier offers you a biscuit. You give him a button from your coat. Neither of you knows what to say, so you just nod. He nods back. Historians still argue whether the Christmas truce of 1914 was spontaneous or secretly encouraged by officers. From your perspective, it felt like something outside of time, beautiful, fleeting, and doomed. The next day, it ends. Just like that. The whistles blow. The shouting starts. You return to your post, rifle in hand. The war resumes, as if kindness had been a dream. Life in the trench regains its rhythm. Boredom laced with terror. You do a lot of waiting for food, for messages, for something, anything, to break the monotony. A dead mule is hauled past the trench. Nobody blinks. Fritz comments that the mule had a better uniform. You're not sure he's joking. You get to know your trench like an extension of your body. That bend near the sandbag pile is where you saw lightning strike. That dip near the duckboard always floods at night. That low spot under the wooden planks. That's where Wilhelm keeps his secret stash of pickled onions. Don't ask how he got them. You even start naming the rats. One particularly fat specimen is dubbed Herr General. He scurries around fearlessly, even during bombardments. Some claim he's immortal, others just want him promoted. You also learn how to sleep standing up. It's not ideal, but sometimes it's the only way. You dream in snatches, often about food, sometimes about home, occasionally about nothing at all. And speaking of food, today's ration is boiled turnips. Again. You try to chew slowly to make it last. It doesn't help. You trade a half biscuit for a smear of margarine. You feel like a criminal, a satisfied one. Another fringe belief. Some soldiers bury personal items under the trench floor for luck. Tiny things. A coin, a lock of hair, a wooden cross. You bury a pencil stub. You don't know why. Then there's mail. A letter arrives from a girl you once fancied. She writes that she's engaged now, to a baker. You're weirdly proud of her. You fold the letter carefully, place it in your inner coat pocket, and say nothing. Artillery continues like background music. At some point, you stop flinching. The thuds just blend in, like the rustle of wind through leaves, except the wind doesn't drop craters in the earth or vaporize your drinking water. There's one night when the shelling is especially bad. You lie face down, arms covering your head, praying to a god you haven't spoken to since school. The sky flashes, the trench shakes. You count the seconds between booms, as if that'll somehow protect you. When it stops, you rise slowly, covered in dirt, deaf in one ear, but alive. You're not untouched, though. No one is. A friend from your squad, Paul, doesn't make it. You find his helmet by the wall. The mud where he was is darker now. That's all. You don't cry. You just keep digging. The chaplain says a few words the next day. You nod along. The sermon feels like a song you can't quite remember. Quirky fact. Some soldiers wear lucky charms. One man carries a dried frog in a pouch. Another has a pebble he swears glows at night. You tie a string from your old school satchel around your wrist. It's fraying, but it's yours. Then comes a surprise. Mail from your mother again. She included a photograph. The house. Your brother. The dog. You stare at it until your eyes blur. Then you fold it up and tuck it next to the other letter. The one from the girl who married the baker. One of the officers tries to boost morale with a poetry contest. The winner gets a can of condensed milk. Fritz writes something about sausages and despair. He wins. You learn to appreciate absurdity. It keeps you sane, like when a shell lands square on the officer's latrine, leaving only a crater and a surprisingly intact teacup. You laugh so hard you choke. Even the Feldwebel cracks a smile. But laughter doesn't last here. It comes in flashes or like warmth, like memory. Soon. Word arrives. Your unit is rotating out for a few days. A rest camp. Real beds. A hot meal. Maybe even socks. You're almost afraid to believe it. You march out under grey skies, back stiff, rifle slung over your shoulder. You don't look back. The trench isn't a place you'll miss. But part of you stays behind anyway. The rest camp is not a spa. It's a bombed-out barn on the edge of a French village whose name you can't pronounce and won't remember. The beds are straw pallets on wooden slats. The hot meal is cabbage soup served lukewarm from a dented pot. But you don't complain. No one does. You just sit, eat, and let your body catch up with your soul, if it still has the energy. The biggest luxury here? Dry socks. Honest to God. Warm, dry socks. They're passed around like sacred relics. You're told you can keep one pair if you trade in your lice-ridden originals. You gladly hand them over like a sinner at confession. For the first time in weeks, you're indoors at night. There's a roof above you, a real one, though there's a hole in it, and the wind moans through the beams like a ghost with unfinished paperwork. You huddle in your coat, breathing in the scent of hay and old boots, and feel almost peaceful. Almost? Then someone mentions gas. The word lands like a brick in a glass of tea. You've heard whispers, sure, but no one ever talks about it directly. Now, it's confirmed. The enemy has started using poison gas, chlorine. Burns your lungs, blinds your eyes, leaves you gasping like a fish on a dock. Your unit's issued gas masks. New ones. Less like elephant leather nightmares and more like something a child might craft in a haunted arts and crafts session. They smell of rubber and talc. You're told to practice putting it on in under 6 seconds. You manage 12, better than last time. You also receive a little pamphlet with cheerful diagrams, how to spot a gas attack. Step 1, see the green mist. Step 2, don't die. Easy. Historians still argue whether gas was more psychological weapon or physical terror. In your case, it's both. 2 days later, you're back on the line, it's different trench, same misery. This one's older, deeper, more fortified. You recognize the smell immediately. Death, wet wool, and cigarettes. Always cigarettes. The rats are worse here. Bolder. They don't even scatter when you enter. One stares at you like he's evaluating your nutritional value. You name him Major Schnitzel. It's quiet for a few days. Uneasy quiet, like a dog growling under its breath. You know something's coming. And then, one foggy morning, it does. A sharp, high-pitched whistle, not from a shell, from the air. A hiss. Gas, you shout. Fumble for your mask. Drop it. Grab it again. The mist creeps over the edge of the trench like a ghost with unfinished business. Men scream. Some freeze. Others panic. The Feldwebel bellows, voice muffled behind his mask, but no one's listening. You get the mask on just in time. The filters scratch your throat and your breath comes heavy. Your eyes sting anyway. The mist glows faintly green, eerie in the dawn light. You hunker down, rifle tight, watching it roll by. Beside you, Fritz isn't so lucky. His mask strap snapped. He's coughing, eyes wide and red, clawing at the sky like it owes him something. Two men drag him back, their hands shaking. The gas lingers for what feels like hours. Later, when it finally clears, the world feels quiet. Too quiet. As if sound itself is recovering. You help carry Fritz to the aid station. He's breathing. Barely. The medic gives him a shot of morphine and mutters something about lung damage. You nod, though your ears are still ringing. In the days that follow, every breeze feels suspicious. Every morning mist makes your stomach twist. You check your gas mask so many times it becomes a nervous tick. You're changed. All of you are. Before, the fear came in bangs and blasts. Now it hisses. That week, you're tasked with helping reinforce the trench walls, sandbags, planks, chicken wire, anything to keep the mud from swallowing the place whole. You scrape frozen earth with your spade until your hands blister. The frost bites through your gloves like a hungry dog. A corporal tells you to dig deeper at the corner bunker. You do. You hit something hard. Wood. You clear it off. A box. You open it. Ammo. And under that, bones, human, old, probably French. You close it again. Carefully. That night, while sipping Ersatz coffee, you overhear two officers arguing. One insists the gas attack was illegal. Violation of the Hague. The other shrugs. So is killing people with bayonets. War is full of contradictions. You wonder about that. Fringe theory time. Some soldiers believe if you wear garlic around your neck, gas won't affect you. Others say holding your breath while rubbing mustard on your nose will do the trick. You try neither, but you do eat more garlic, just in case. The front shifts slightly. An order comes in. You're to hold position during a reconnaissance raid. You don't ask questions. You just clean your bayonet, tighten your boots, and pretend you're not terrified. The raid is a mess. You're out of the trench, crawling through no man's land, your heart slamming like a faulty engine. Wire catches your coat. You cut it. A flare goes up. Suddenly everything's visible. Too visible. Shots ring out so you hit the ground. Mud swallows your elbow. Someone ahead goes down. You crawl forward anyway. The objective. A listening post. You find it. A shallow pit. Papers. Maps. You grab them. Toss them to the runner. Then, artillery. Fast. Loud. Close. You get back to the trench minus 2 men. One of them was the runner. The maps are gone. It's declared a partial success. You sit in the corner, shaking, mud up to your knees, and try not to vomit. Later, you're debriefed. They ask what you saw. You say, nothing clear. That's enough. No one wants clear. You try to sleep. You can't. The image of the flare is burned into your retinas, white light, wire shadows, red mist. In the morning, and Fritz is back on his feet. Sort of. His voice sounds like gravel in a rain gutter. He jokes about joining a choir. You both laugh, then cough. You think about the gas, about the faces that didn't make it, about the line you crossed in no man's land, about what you do for a cup of real coffee. You're still here, still breathing, but it feels like your body's moving forward, and your mind stayed somewhere back in the fog. You've lost track of how long you've been at the front. Weeks, months. Time has gone soft and slippery, like overcooked noodles. The calendar you drew on the side of your mess tin has smudged into nothing. A man from your unit claims it's spring. Another says it's still winter. You're not sure it matters. You keep thinking about leave. A few men have gone home. Home, meaning 2 weeks back in the real world with clean sheets, actual food, and the sound of birds that aren't just crows waiting for bodies. They return smelling like soap and smiling like they've seen a unicorn. Most don't talk about what it felt like. Some don't come back at all. You're still waiting. Your name's not on the leave list. Again. The Fellweeble says maybe next month. You've heard maybe next month 4 times now. You start to think next month is code for not you, ever. So you stay, you do what you're told, you scrape mud, you carry crates, you play cards with bent, greasy decks missing half the suits. One game lasts 4 days. No one wins. Today's distraction is a package from home. Your mother sends hard candies, socks, and a tiny book of psalms. You eat the candies too fast and regret it instantly. You share one with Fritz. He says it tastes like hope, then eats the wrapper by accident. The trench gets a visitor, a junior officer fresh from Berlin. New boots, clean shave, clipboard. He asks questions no one wants to answer. How are morale levels? How is the food? You stare at him blankly until he trips in a puddle and leaves. Afterward, a private composes a song mocking the officer. It becomes an instant trench hit. The chorus goes, "His boots were clean, his hands were soft. He asked about our beans." Catchy. You start volunteering for mail duty, not because it's safer, but because it means moving, walking from section to section, seeing other faces, faces that are still intact. One day, you're delivering a letter when you overhear someone sobbing. You pause. A man, barely 20, is holding a photo and repeating, "She said she'd wait." Over and over. You leave the letter silently on his pack and walk away. There are things you don't talk about, things you just carry. The trench changes with the weather. Rain turns it into a swamp. Frost makes it a tomb. Summer, when it comes, smells like rot and sweat and gun oil. No season feels right. You read the same letter from your brother over and over. He drew another picture. This time you're flying a plane. You almost chuckle. "Wrong war," you whisper. Then the coughing starts. It begins with Fritz, then spreads like wildfire. Men wheezing, hacking, spitting up things that shouldn't be part of the human body. The medic says it's trench fever. You suspect it's just being alive here too long. Historians still argue whether trench fever was spread mostly by lice, poor hygiene, or a general hatred from the universe. Either way, it hits hard and leaves you shaking like a leaf in a thunderstorm. You wrap yourself tighter in your coat, drink hot water when you can, and try not to breathe too deeply. Good luck. You get another visitor, this one wearing a Red Cross armband. He checks medical logs and clicks his tongue, and says something about conditions needing improvement. A man offers him a spoonful of the improved soup. He declines. Quirky fact: some soldiers use crushed charcoal in their boots to reduce foot odour and ward off trench foot. You try it. It makes your socks look like burnt toast. But hey, anything that distracts from the smell of death. A dog shows up one morning. No collar, mangy fur but bright eyes. The men instantly adopt him. He's named Oberst Kartoffel, Colonel Potato. He becomes the trench mascot. Even the Feldwebel lets him nap in the dugout. One night, you dream you're home, not in your bed, but standing in the middle of your mother's kitchen, holding a gas mask and crying. You wake up with your face in the dirt, clutching your helmet like it owes you money. You spend another day reinforcing the firing step. Sandbags, wood planks, crushed stone. The corporal tells you it'll keep out most of the bullets. Comforting. Then the French start shelling. It's a slow, methodical bombardment, like they're tuning an orchestra. You sit in the mud, counting impacts. 1, 2, 3, close, closer, far. A shell lands behind you, near the latrine. No casualties, just a truly unspeakable mess. The men joke about it for a full day. Even misery needs a mascot. You clean your rifle for the 20th time this week. Not because it needs it, but because it's something you can control. The bolt slides smoothly. The wood's worn down where your hand rests. It almost feels like part of you now. You write a letter. Short. Just a few lines. You don't mention the gas or the coughing or the frozen latrine incident. You write, "I'm still here, still breathing. Tell my brother I got his picture. And yes, I think I could fly a plane someday." You sign it with a name you barely recognize anymore. Then, just before lights out, you hear a rumor. The Kaiser himself might be visiting a nearby division. Someone swears they saw his car. You roll your eyes. You've also heard stories about ghost battalions, miracle bullets, and British spies disguised as cows. The Feldwebel chuckles. If the Kaiser comes, tell him to bring dry socks. The cough is worse now. It rattles your chest like a locked door in a haunted house. You tell yourself it'll pass. It doesn't. You're sent to the rear for evaluation. Just a day, maybe 2. The medics poke you, frown, write things down. You lie on a cot under a leaking tent and listen to the wind. A British shell lands nearby. You don't flinch. You're offered the chance to stay longer. You say no. The idea of abandoning your trench, your unit, even the rats, feels wrong. Like quitting a story halfway through. You return. Nothing's changed. The mud still stinks. Fritz still coughs. Colonel Potato still begs for biscuits. And the leave list still doesn't have your name. But you're here. You're alive. And in this strange, endless war that still counts as winning, winter returns like a drunk uncle, loud, cold, and completely unwelcome. You feel it before it's official. The way your breath fogs thicker, how the mud stiffens, how your fingers lose feeling halfway through unbuttoning your coat. Then comes the frost, the kind that creeps into your bones and sets up camp. One morning, you wake to find your water tin frozen solid. You try to drink anyway and chip a tooth on the ice. Your uniform wasn't designed for this. The coat is thick but stiff, and the wool absorbs water like a sponge. The boots, cracked and weary. You wrap your feet in newspaper. Fritz uses an old letter from home. You joke that it adds sentimental warmth. He doesn't laugh this time. And the worst part, fires are banned. They attract artillery like moths to a bomb, so you sit huddled with your mates in a dugout the size of a small coffin, your breath hanging in the air like ghosts. You press knees together, share body heat, mutter jokes. One man suggests we pretend we're on a ski holiday. Another starts whistling Silent Night. You will punch him, gently. The food gets even worse in winter, which you didn't think was possible. Today's meal is boiled cabbage and something the cook swears is meat. You don't ask what kind. You just chew, swallow, and try to think warm thoughts, like home, a fire, a blanket that doesn't smell like mildew and rat pee. You're assigned to night watch. Again. Standing still in sub-zero temperatures while trying not to freeze or fall asleep is a challenge few are built for. You tap your boots to keep blood moving, wiggle your fingers, whisper old-school chants to yourself. Anything. At one point, you think you see something move in no man's land. You stare through your scope. Nothing. Just a broken cartwheel half buried in the snow. Your eyes are playing tricks again. Another night. The man next to you passes out from cold. He simply slumps, mid-sentence, like someone pulled the plug. You drag him inside and wrap him in blankets. He wakes hours later and asks for tea. Everyone laughs. No one has tea. Historians still argue whether the German army was adequately prepared for long winters. Judging by the way your fingers are turning blue, you'd say, not really. You receive a new type of rations, iron portions. Compressed bricks of nutrients designed to keep soldiers alive under extreme conditions. You bite into one. It tastes like shoe leather and chalk. You chew for 20 minutes and swallow with difficulty. Even the rats seem less enthusiastic now. They look gaunt, cold, tired. One dies near your bedroll. Fritz gives it a proper burial using a matchbox and a hymn. You both agree things have officially gotten weird. And then comes a blizzard, whiteout conditions, wind howling like banshees in your ears, visibility reduced to a few feet. You hold on to ropes strung along the trench wall just to avoid wandering into the open. A man does. They find him frozen solid the next morning, posed like he was still walking. During the storm, one of the dugouts collapses. 2 men are trapped. You dig for hours with numb hands, shoveling frozen sludge. You pull them out alive. Barely. One says nothing. The other just keeps whispering his daughter's name. You earn a cigarette ration for your effort. You light it with shaking hands. It tastes like smoke and triumph. At night, you dream strange things. Not about the war, but of warm rooms, floating lanterns, and being hugged by someone with no face. You wake sweating under a frost-covered blanket. Fringe belief, some soldiers carry a pinch of dirt from home in their pockets. They say it helps protect them. You don't have any dirt, so you fold a piece of paper into a star and keep it in your cap lining. It's silly, but you keep it anyway. The Feldwebel is quieter these days. He coughs often. When you ask if he's all right, he growls. Still breathing, aren't I? That's about as close as you'll ever get to vulnerability. You're sent to collect ice from a nearby pond, melt it for water. The pond is frozen solid. You hack at it with a pickaxe. The ice shatters. Beneath it, something glints. A helmet. French. You see the shape of a face beneath the surface. You stop looking. Later that night, the officers announce a warmth initiative. You all receive tiny candles. Just enough to thaw fingers, they say. You light yours and watch the wax pool, flickering on your helmet. Fritz carves his into a little angel. It's lopsided. You say it's beautiful. You begin a ritual. Every morning, you scratch a line into your bayonet's handle. One for each day you wake up still alive. You're up to 72. You stop counting after that. Then comes New Year's Eve. Someone finds a harmonica. Another man. A violin missing one string. You cobble together a terrible, glorious off-key concert. There's laughter. Even the Feldwebel joins in, muttering lyrics through his moustache. At midnight, a single flare goes up across the trench line. You don't know if it's French or German. You all cheer anyway. The next morning, snow again. Clean. Untouched. It makes the battlefield look almost peaceful, like someone hit reset on the world. You stand for a moment, just breathing it in. Then a shell lands 100 yards away. The war remembers itself. A few days later, the cough turns into something worse. Fritz goes down with fever. The medic frowns, says it's in the lungs now. You sit with him, tell stories, offer your last hard candy. He smiles weakly and says, "Tastes like home." He doesn't wake up the next morning. You bury him behind the trench, wrap him in his coat, place the angel candle at his head. You say a few words. The Feldwebel puts a hand on your shoulder, then turns away. That night, you sit in the dark, carving his name into the side of your rifle stock, carefully, slowly, as if each letter might keep a part of him with you. You realize something. You're not the same person who arrived here. You sleep in the cold. You laugh at death. You mourn in silence. And you carry names, not just your own anymore, not the heavy, theatrical kind, just a slow, cold drizzle that seeps through sandbags, uniforms, and spirits. Your blanket is damp. Your rifle is damp. Even your socks, somehow tucked away in your pack, are damp. It hasn't stopped raining in days. The trench is no longer just a trench. It's a moat. You wade ankle deep through grey water, trying not to think about what's floating in it. A boot, a bloated rat, something that might have once been food. You stop looking. No one speaks much now. Not because you're scared, but because words feel too expensive. You save your breath for breathing. Today's task, maintenance. The war doesn't stop because you're cold, wet, or wondering if your feet are still technically attached. You're ordered to rebuild the fire step. Again, the boards crack under pressure. One breaks. A man goes down hard. He curses in 3 dialects and mutters something about the devil hiding in the wood. You're also told to repair the barbed wire. You hate this job. It means crawling out at dusk, into no man's land, with coils of sharp steel and a pair of pliers. The Feldwebel tells you to be quick and quiet. You nod, not like you were planning to tap dance out there anyway. You wait for dark. Then move. The mud grabs at your legs. The wire snags your sleeves. You breathe shallowly. Every rustle feels too loud. You think you see movement, but it's just the wind. Or maybe not. A body lies near the post. French. Frozen in place. Eyes half-lidded, one hand still clutching his helmet. You pause, say nothing, and get back to twisting the wire. Fast. Quiet. Historians still debate whether barbed wire was a defensive marvel or an invention of pure spite. You vote spite. Back in the trench, you hear that new orders have arrived. You're to prepare for a push. A real one this time. Not reconnaissance. Not a skirmish. An actual offensive. The spring offensive. There's buzz in the air. Men cleaning weapons, sharpening bayonets, rechecking gas masks. The officers talk in hushed voices. The Feldwebel just smokes more. The plan, you're told, is to hit hard and fast. The Allies are tired. The line is thin. If the timing works, this could be a breakthrough. Everyone nods, no one believes it. You're issued extra rations, hardtack, cheese, a strip of dried sausage. It's the best meal you've had in weeks. You eat slowly, as if stretching the moment might somehow stretch the safety. Then, the night before the push, you receive another letter from home. Your brother drew a tank again. This time, you're standing on it holding a loaf of bread and a flag. He writes, "I hope your trench has windows." You laugh, a real, honest laugh. It surprises you. You sleep early. You dream of trains, of standing at the station with your boots off and no one yelling. You wake to gunfire. The bombardment starts before dawn. German artillery pounds the enemy line. The ground trembles. The trench shakes. You sit, helmet low, trying not to breathe in the dust. The sky flashes. The morning light turns grey. Then comes the whistle. Over the top, you climb, rifle in hand, bayonet fixed, legs trembling. No man's land greets you like an old friend. The mud, the craters, the wire. You step carefully, running low, head down. Around you, men shout, one falls, another trips. You keep moving. Bullets whistle past. You hear one snap close to your ear. Another thuds into the ground by your boot. Dirt flies. You duck behind a shattered tree stump and fire twice. You don't look where. You advance. A shell lands nearby. You're thrown back. Your ears ring. You taste blood. You get up. Half your coat is torn. Your rifle's gone. You grab another from the ground. No time to check if it works. You reach the enemy trench. Chaos. Screaming. Smoke. You leap down, swinging the rifle like a club. A man rushes you. You dodge. He falls. You don't stop to check. Your hands shake and your breath rasps. You don't feel heroic. You feel hollow. Then it's quiet. The trench is taken. Reinforcements arrive. You collapse against the wall, chest heaving. A medic gives you water. You drink greedily. It tastes of tin and smoke. You look around. The ground is littered with shell casings and silence. The Feldwebel limps by, blood on his sleeve. He nods at you. That's all. Just a nod. It means everything. That night, you sit in a trench that isn't yours, under stars that feel far too bright. You write, "We moved forward today, a few meters. It felt like miles." You sign your name, a name you now barely recognize. The next day, you bury the bodies. Friend and foe, one by one, carefully. You place a helmet over each. You don't have enough helmets. You find Fritz's drawing, crumpled in your coat pocket, the one with the tank. You fold it again and tuck it into your helmet lining. You don't cry, but your hands shake for hours. You don't remember falling asleep, only waking up, with your cheek pressed against rough sandbag fabric and your back aching like it's been hosting a piano recital. The spring offensive continues. You're told this is a turning point, that momentum is on your side, that the enemy is tired, stretched thin, and ready to crack. You nod when they say it, even though your legs feel like lead and your stomach hasn't known fullness in weeks. You're rotated to a quieter sector. Quieter meaning the shells fall slightly further away and no one's actively trying to bayonet you in the dark. It's the kind of place where men rebuild trenches, write letters, and stare too long at the sky. It's during this lull that you start noticing the birds again. They chirp in the mornings, flitting through barbed wire, pecking at forgotten crumbs. It feels absurd. Life still happening here, in this theatre of rust and blood. Fritz would have liked that. A new lieutenant joins your unit. Young, nervous, smiles too much, wears gloves like he thinks he'll stay clean. He tells you this war will be over by autumn. You don't tell him that someone said that last year, and the year before. One afternoon, you're assigned to retrieve rations from the supply line. It's a few kilometres back, through mud, crater fields, and more mud. You set off with 2 others. The mud claims one of their boots halfway through. He keeps walking, barefoot. You all pretend that's normal. You arrive, eventually, at a depot consisting of broken carts, shouting quartermasters, and the faint smell of cabbage. You get your supplies, bread, tinned meat, and a mysterious paste labelled only Nährstoff. You ask what it is. The quartermaster shrugs. Energy. On the return trip, you hear an explosion. Distant. Routine. But a cloud of black smoke rises in the direction of your trench. You run. When you arrive, it's chaos. A direct hit on the southern wall. The dugout collapsed, men pulling at wood, sandbags, bodies. You drop the supplies and dig. Hands, not tools. You scrape through dirt and blood. Someone shouts. You keep digging. You find Jacob. His face is pale, lips cracked, but he's breathing. You pull him free. His leg bends the wrong way. He doesn't scream, just says, "Danke," then passes out. You don't feel heroic. You feel hollow. The lieutenant tells you later that you'll be mentioned in dispatches. You nod. You don't care. That night, you sit beside Jacob. His leg is splintered. He'll be sent to a hospital behind the lines. He tries to smile, fails, asks if you want his extra chocolate ration. You don't, but you take it, because that's what you do now. You spend the next few days rebuilding the trench, again. Each shovel of dirt feels heavier than the last. Your hands are cracked, your back aches, but the wall must stand, because if it doesn't, neither will you. You meet a man from Bavaria who claims he's been shot 6 times and still has a bullet lodged in his rear. He shows you the scar. You believe him. He tells you his trick. Never volunteer for anything, and never walk in a straight line. Makes you harder to aim at. You start zigzagging everywhere for fun. It helps. Fringe theory. Some men sew tiny mirrors into their caps, angled upward. Sniper blinkers. The idea is they'll see the glint of enemy scopes. You try one. It reflects the sun into your own eyes and gives you a headache. The weather warms slightly. The trench dries. Just a little. The mud becomes more like clay, easier to walk, harder to dig. You take what you can get. Then comes another order, patrol duty. Night time, quiet sector, just observe, report, and return. You set out with 2 others. The moon is thin, the air damp. You move slowly, crouched, listening to everything. Every snap of a twig, every shift of dirt. You count breaths. You reach the designated point. You see movement. Figures. Not Germans. They don't see you. You duck, mark the location, and withdraw. Silent, slow. Then a flare. Everything is illuminated. White light, long shadows, shining helmets. A shot rings out. Then another. One of your men collapses. The other pulls him. You cover. Fire once, twice, then run. You make it back. Breathless, scraped, alive. The man who was shot lives. Barely. The medics take him. You write the report with shaking hands. The next morning, the lieutenant reads your words. Says, "You kept your head." You shrug. Didn't have a choice. You get extra coffee. It tastes like mud and victory. A letter arrives. From your mother. She writes that the neighbour's son came back from the war. He lost an arm. She says he smiles less now. Then she adds, "We still pray for you every day." Even the dog waits at the door. You fold it gently and slide it into your coat, near Fritz's picture. More news. The Americans are coming. That's the talk now. Fresh troops, fresh supplies, fresh enthusiasm. No one says it out loud, but you all think the same thing. We are not fresh. Historians still debate whether Germany's last offensives were bold strategy or desperate gambles. From where you stand, waist-deep in dirt and broken dreams, they feel more like coin flips with lives on the line. You rest a day. Just one. Long enough to sleep properly for the first time in what feels like years. You dream of music, warm bread, and riding a horse through a forest that doesn't end in barbed wire. You wake to orders. New sector, new trench. The war moves. So do you. You pack your things, rifle, coat, chocolate, the picture. You leave the old trench without looking back. Because even now, you know, there's always another one waiting. You arrive at the new trench late in the day, just as the sun tries its best to punch through the smoke-heavy sky. It fails. The light here is always tired. This trench is deeper, wider, more fortified. But it also smells worse, like mildew, sour soup, and something that died a month ago and refuses to leave. You find a dry spot to dump your kit. A luxury. You're introduced to new faces. Some have that sunken, thousand-yard stare. Others still carry the fresh, clean expressions of men who haven't yet seen a friend bleed out. You give them a nod. You were that man once. It's quiet today. Not peace. Just the absence of loud death. You're on repair duty again. Sandbags, duckboards, drainage ditches. The officer supervising says this trench will hold. You believe him, because the alternative is too exhausting. In the evening, you watch the sunset from a firing step, its orange glow sinking behind a tangle of wire and crows. You could almost believe this is a normal evening, but then the artillery resumes, and the moment evaporates. Next morning, a new round of orders. There's to be another advance, a small one, just testing the line. You try not to laugh at that. Just is a dangerous word here. You're given extra ammunition and a new medical kit. They hand it to you like it's a party favour. Just in case. You stuff it in your coat pocket and check your rifle again. And again. The advance begins before dawn. You're low in the trench, crouched, heart thudding. You smell cordite, wet earth, and fear. The whistle sounds. You climb. No man's land greets you with all its usual charm. Craters, bones, boots with no feet in them. You move fast, head low, boots thudding in rhythm. The French guns open up. You drop. Mud sprays your face, bullets snap past. You see a man go down beside you, no scream, just a grunt and a wet collapse. You push forward. Your squad finds a hole in the wire. You rush through, dive into a shell crater. Inside, a dead horse and two terrified rats. One looks at you like it's judging your life choices. You fire your rifle twice. Missed. Doesn't matter, eh? The point is pressure, movement, noise. Then an explosion. Blinding light. Heat. Your ears vanish. You fly sideways. Hit the dirt. Everything is muffled. Your vision swims. You try to stand. Can't. You reach for your rifle. It's gone. Your arms feel foreign. Voices shout. Shapes move around you. You blink. One of them is screaming your name. It's the new lieutenant. He grabs you by the collar and drags. You bump over rock, root, metal. Your legs don't respond. You try to say something, but your throat is dust. Then black. You wake on a stretcher. Pain floods in like a wave that forgot how to stop. Your side burns. Your head pounds. You're not in the trench. You're not in no man's land. You're somewhere else. A tent. A medical station. The air smells like blood and bleach. Men groan all around. Some scream. Some don't have enough left to scream. A nurse leans over you. She says your name gently, then offers water. You drink like it's the first time. They say you're lucky. Shrapnel missed the lung, a few inches to the left, and you'd be soup. You nod. You don't feel lucky. You're told you'll be sent back behind the lines to recover. Out of action, the medic says. His tone suggests he's said that too many times this week. You lie still for days, watching the tent flap sway, listening to the orchestra of pain. One bed over, a man sings to himself, a lullaby, in French. Across the aisle, a soldier with no legs asks you what day it is. You don't know. Historians still argue whether the German field hospitals were efficient or overwhelmed disasters. You know the answer. Both. There's medicine. Yes. But there's also mud on the floor and the smell of despair in every breath. You write a letter, it's shaky or clumsy. You say, wounded, but alive. Still here. Tell everyone not to worry. You lie, of course. But what else is new? Days pass. You're moved again. By wagon this time. Through winding roads. Past half-destroyed villages. Farmers stare at you as you roll by. Faces carved from stone. A girl waves. You wave back with your good arm. The next stop, a proper hospital in a rear city. Real beds, real walls. You sleep for 12 hours straight. Here, time behaves again. You're given clean clothes, soft bread, and lukewarm soup that doesn't taste like tin. You miss the tin. Isn't that strange? One afternoon, you catch your reflection in a polished window. Your face looks older, greyer. Your eyes have changed. You sit in the hospital garden sometimes. It's quiet. There are flowers, butterflies. You cry once. No one sees. You get a letter from your brother. He writes, "When you come home, I want you to teach me how to march." You cry again. Just a little. Quirky fact, some recovering soldiers started little clubs, reading groups, drawing circles, even singing choirs. Your group plays cards badly and tells ghost stories. A French nurse joins once and wins every round. Your wound heals. Enough. You're given the choice, reassign or remain in rear duty. Most men would jump at the chance to avoid going back to the front. You don't. You say, send me back. Not because you're brave and not because you're loyal, but because you still carry names, pictures, promises, and because some part of you knows you left yourself back there. The journey back to the front feels surreal. Your uniform is new, or at least new to you. The fabric itches in unfamiliar places, and the boots don't yet know your feet. Your pack is lighter than before, though not because you carry less. It's just that the weight feels different now, more memory than muscle. The truck rumbles over broken roads, past twisted trees and shattered villages that look more like graveyards than towns. You sit in the back with 5 others. No one speaks. One smokes. One prays under his breath. You arrive under cover of dusk. The trench line is quiet, muddy, as always, but it feels older, more fragile. The Feldwebel greets you with a nod and a grunt. He's got new grey in his moustache. He doesn't ask how you're doing. You're grateful. You're reassigned to a small team, mostly faces you don't know. Except one, Jacob. He made it back too. He limps, but smiles. Says, "I told them you'd return. Idiot." You grin. The insult feels like home. Back to routine. Sandbags, dugouts, cold rations. The sound of distant shelling like thunder from an angry sky. But something's shifted. The war feels tired. The trenches are quieter. The chatter of officers is more hushed. Their eyes heavier. Even the guns seem slower to bark. There are rumours again, this time, of peace. The Americans are pushing. Supplies are stretched. Morale is leaking like water from a cracked canteen. You don't allow yourself hope. Not yet. One morning you hear singing from the French lines. No gunfire, no shouting, just a single voice, clear and sad, drifting across no man's land. You don't shoot. Neither does anyone else. Historians still argue whether soldiers on both sides were ready for peace in those final weeks, or simply too exhausted to care. You'd say it was both. Exhaustion has its own kind of clarity. Then, the order, hold your position, await further instruction. Nothing follows. For days, you spend the time sharpening a stick into a point, not because you need it, but because it gives your hand something to do. Jacob makes jokes about how you're preparing for squirrels. You tell him you've seen meaner squirrels than the average private. The food is worse than usual. Supplies thin. The sausage is more fat than meat. The bread is mostly flour and doubt. But you chew and swallow and pretend you don't notice. Mail arrives, a letter from your mother. We hear whispers that the war may end soon. Can it be true? Please come home. You tuck the letter next to Fritz's drawing. It's faded now. The edge is worn soft. And then, November 11th, 1918. The guns stop. Not gradually, not fading away, it's just stop. It takes hours before anyone believes it. You all wait, crouched in the trench, rifles ready, eyes peeled, but nothing happens. The silence is louder than any shell you've ever heard. You peek over the edge, no movement, no smoke. A bird flies overhead. You laugh. Jakob laughs. Then someone starts sobbing. No one tells him to stop. The Feldwebel sits down on a crate and lights a cigarette with shaking hands. It's over. You're not sure what to feel. Relief, yes, but also confusion. Emptiness. Like your body expected another order, another charge. But now there's just this. The war is over. You're still here. The next day's blur. You help bury weapons, burn records, dismantle parts of the trench. You keep your bayonet but return the rifle. It feels wrong, like handing in a limb. There's talk of trains, of demobilization, of home. But for now you wait. You sit in the trench, drinking weak coffee and listening to the wind. Jakob sketches in a notebook. You write your name in the dirt, then erase it. One evening you see a rat crawl by. You nod at it, old friend. You begin to pack. Your coat, your boots, your memories, the picture, the letters. You stare one last time down the trench line. You touch the wood, the sandbags. You close your eyes and whisper the names. Then you climb out. You walk, past barbed wire, craters, twisted metal. Past the places you once fell, once froze, once buried your fear. The war is behind you now, but not gone. You survived, somehow. But part of you always stays. Wind down, 300 words. You walk through a quiet field. No shells fall, no orders shout, no boots stomp. Just grass bending gently in the breeze and the soft hum of insects that don't know what war is. Your pack is light. Your steps are slow. You can finally hear your own breath. Steady. Real. The world feels wider, the sky bluer, but still there's a weight not on your shoulders, but in your chest. A kind of echo. The kind that stays long after the guns go silent. You pass a tree and place your hand on the bark. Solid. Still. You linger for a moment. The sun touches your face like it remembers you. Far in the distance you see smoke from a chimney. A home, maybe yours, or someone's. You keep walking, and with each step the mud fades. The noise fades, the war fades. What remains is the rhythm of your heartbeat, the crunch of dry leaves underfoot, and a silence you no longer fear. You made it. You probably weren't supposed to, but you did. Now rest. You've earned it. Close your eyes. Let your body sink deep into your blanket, and let the final echoes of this journey drift away like morning fog. Sleep now, soldier. You're home.